Yo.
All right, hello. Welcome everyone. How's it going today? How are we all doing? My name's Natasha. We're here to do some book club tonight. Usually we do that on the first Monday of the month, but I had a friend visiting this month, so it was kind of a little bit different. So we're going to do book club tonight. We're going to do writing club next Monday, because that's usually the second Monday of the month. I'll do that next week. And then we're going to do some co-working tonight as well. Probably, I don't know, an hour or two, I'm not sure. But book club usually takes half an hour to an hour, and then we'll do a little bit of co-working. So kind of mix it up, do some good stuff. Hopefully everyone's ready for some, I don't know, for some chill book talk, and then maybe get some productivity done. We'll see. Give a like, give a follow if you, give a subscribe if you enjoy co-working and creative streams. And yeah, I'm going to pull up my notes on the book and we're going to dive right in. Alright, okay, I keep thinking I need to set off a timer, but I don't, because it's not Pomodoro right now. But I should pull up my book notes. Okay, I already pulled it up. So the book for this month is The One Thing by Gary Keller, which I started reading like absolutely months and months ago, but then I'm reading it in my library app and I lost the book, like it expired and I couldn't get it back for a couple months, so that was frustrating. But then I did get it back about a month ago and I finished it. It was a long book too, but it was good. It was worth reading. One of those overview of the book kind of is one of those, like, you know, business productivity kind of books, like how to focus and how to like set goals and things, which is, I love reading those kind of things because I'm always finding something interesting and useful little tips to implement. So this one was really about prioritizing and focusing your energy on one thing, obviously because of the title. So I'll go through it in a little more detail. I took quite a few notes on this one, so I'll just kind of go through what I was thinking about when I read it and kind of the quotes that I saved from it. So the book kind of started like the general premise is, what's the one thing you can do that will make everything else easier or unnecessary? So kind of like really streamlining your focus onto, instead of just doing a bunch of little tasks, if you just take care of one big task, will it make the little tasks completely unneeded? And his point was kind of like, if you don't know what that one thing is, your one thing is to find out. Like if you're like, I don't have time to find out, I've got all these other little things to do. It's like, no, your one thing until you figure it out is figuring it out, which I thought was pretty smart, because it's like, oh, well, how do you figure it out when you have all this stuff to do? It's like, no, you already have a one thing. Your one thing is to find it. So I thought that was pretty good. Oh good, captions are working. I hadn't actually checked that, but I can see them working. What else? Oh, before I dive in more, I'm really excited because I had an excellent Italian bureaucracy experience today, and that's really rare because every other experience has been nightmarish. But I finally applied for my ID card, the third one, and the application went really smoothly, so I should be getting it in a week, and I'm really happy about that because that took a couple tries to get right, but this time it worked, and the guy was so nice and helpful, and that was rare. Usually they're kind of like, I don't know what to do. It's not working. I don't know how to help you. Don't know where to send you. Okay, I'll try again later. But this time it worked smoothly. I'll get back into the book again. All right, what do we have here? I don't want to just like read out all the quotes I saved, but... Okay, this one's a quote from General George Patton. You must be single-minded. Drive for the one thing on which you have decided. So that's kind of the thesis, right? Kind of defining what it is that's going to help you be successful, like what plays into your passions and skills. Dun, dun, dun. Okay, so kind of as a summary, he said there's six lies between you and success. So the 6 things are: everything matters equally. It doesn't. Multitasking is efficient. Usually it's not. He says a disciplined life, and we'll go over that later. Willpower is always on will call. It's not. You have to make sure you pay attention to where you spend your willpower. A balanced life, and he kind of talks into, instead of like striving for like some ideal balanced life, like be aware of what sacrifices you're making and why. And big is bad. So kind of like how you're setting and planning your goals. And we'll go into all those in a little more detail. All right, so to-do lists. He kind of goes through how to avoid writing to-do lists that are just trivial, unimportant obligations that you feel like you have to get done because you put it on a list. Looking for the essential things, deciding what actually matters, and letting that drive your day. So this is something I kind of struggle with and kind of don't, because I don't get caught up in unnecessary obligations to other people, which a lot of people do. I get caught up in the things I think need to be done to do something right and to do something perfectly. And it's like, really, this doesn't need to be done at all. It would be fine if I just didn't do this and just launch the product or whatever it is, right? So that's something I have to be careful about. Yeah, getting things done sooner by not wasting steps that are unnecessary. Yeah, to-do list versus a success list, something that's short and focused, purposefully created around your extraordinary results, and pulls you in a specific direction. He calls it an organized directive. If a list isn't built around success, then it's not where it takes you. So organize your to-do list by what you want to achieve out of the day or the month or whatever. He talks about the Pareto principle, kind of that 80-20 rule, like 20% of the work you do will provide 80% of the results. So don't waste your time on the 80% that's not really pushing you anywhere, getting you anywhere. Yeah, extraordinary results are disproportionately created by fewer actions than you think. Once you figure out what matters, keep asking what matters most until there's only one thing left, and that goes at the top of your list. All right, so we're on to multitasking. So researchers found that multitaskers are frequently outperformed. If you're doing too many things in the time you have, you do all of them poorly. I mean, I take this advice with a grain of salt because as a natural kind of ADD multitasker, like, that's great and all, but if I'm going to get distracted anyways, I might as well use that distracted time on another work project, right? Like, it's like, okay, well, I could be distracted by, like, social media, or I could be distracted by another project. Like, I might as well put that distraction energy into another project. So for me, it's kind of like, yeah, but it's gonna happen anyways. And I can kind of like minimize and streamline that. But at the end of the day, I gotta work with what I got. Okay, so he talks about like how like whenever you switch between tasks, there's like a time gap because you have to kind of reconfigure your brain to get it right on the new track, which is true. But if you're going to do that anyways, if your brain's doing that anyways, sometimes you just got to roll with it. And of course, how tasks take longer when you're multitasking. You can't get it done as fast as if you just worked on it only as a thing. But for me, again, if I'm going to be working on multiple things anyways, like they're all going to get done. Like they're not going to take longer than if like I just worked on it in one time chunk. If it takes half an hour here and half an hour there versus 1 hour here, even if it takes like an hour and a half in total versus an hour, but it's spread out, for me, it's not a huge issue. But I do understand the point. So if that's something you struggle with, it's something to keep in mind. Oh, he does talk about how like multitasking actually can release dopamine when you switch tasks, which can be addictive. And you start feeling bored if you're not doing that. So that's like, yeah, that's pretty true. Some of us need that dopamine hit, so. And multitasking can make you favor new information over old information, which can make your decision-making poorer if the older information is more valuable for that decision, but you're favoring the new information. So that's something to keep in mind. I hadn't heard that before. Discipline. So the truth is, he says, the truth is you don't need any more discipline than you already have. You just need to direct it and manage it better, which I mean, I feel like that's almost a little bit like catch-22. It's like, well, you kind of need discipline to manage your discipline, but I get his point. So I guess one of the things to mention in this book is that a lot of it is kind of like stuff you've heard before. A lot of it was kind of repeat stuff, but I'm going to try to call out the stuff that's actually new or the stuff that was helpful to me, because once you've read a bunch of these books, like so much stuff overlaps. None of them are all original, which is good because then you kind of see the information in different ways. But yeah, a lot of the stuff in this book is kind of like, I've already kind of tried that and it didn't work, or I agree with that already. But there was some good stuff in here too. And he talks about how like using habits, like once you can use discipline just long enough for the habit to kick in, which is kind of goes back to all the greatness of Atomic Habits, which if you haven't read that first, because that book's amazing. And I've definitely covered that book on this channel before. He talks about how we'll say you need more discipline to get something done, but really you need a habit. You just need enough discipline to build the habit, and then you don't need to keep pouring willpower into that action, which I agree with. If you can kind of build a routine or a system or a habit, you don't need to keep forcing yourself to willpower through things, because it doesn't work very well. Yeah, when you see what looks like disciplined people, frequently you're seeing people who've trained a bunch of good habits. And he says, you can become successful with less discipline you think, for a simple reason. Success is about doing the right thing, not about doing everything right. I think that's really important because, yeah, like I said, I end up getting distracted by a bunch of stuff I think I should do, but it's not the important driver. And it's like, I don't need to get all these little things perfect. I need to get the one important thing right. Also, he agrees to build one habit at a time, which is the same as Atomic Habits. Like, don't try to implement a whole bunch of habits at once. Try to add one, and then once you've got that one down, add another one, kind of build on top. Habit stacking works really well. Hey Janos, how's it going? Anything about reward from doing a task or joy from doing the task? Sorry, is that a question or a statement? Like using the reward of feeling like you've completed a task? Okay, willpower. We're back to willpower. Okay, so exercising willpower drops your glucose in your bloodstream. Exercising willpower is actually like physically draining on your body, and people kind of forget that, but you actually do have like a physical limit to how much willpower you have in a day. And it, like, basically when you're done until you kind of really rest, until you have a nap or a sleep or a break, and then you can kind of get a little bit back. But most of the time you have to wait till the next day. So studies showed the impact on performance when two groups competed on a willpower task and then did another. Between tasks, one group was given a glass of Kool-Aid lemonade with real sugar and the other was given lemonade with Splenda. So the placebo group had roughly twice as many errors on this test as did the sugar group. So yeah, if you can kind of keep your glucose levels steady, you're gonna be able to keep a more stable control over your willpower. It needs energy and glucose, and this is why people get hangry and make bad decisions when they're hungry. So it says kind of like, what are your default settings for how you spend your willpower? What are you prioritizing spending it on every day? I have to be super careful with this because I have to be really careful to get, if I need to get something done, I have to make sure it's not even necessarily like the first thing in my day, but it has to be at the right time in my day, because if I put it off, it will end up not getting done because I'll be too tired. But if I try to do it too early, it won't work either. So I have to like make sure it's just the right moment for me. And I have to pick one thing that I necessarily need to get done in a day, and then anything else is like a bonus. And sometimes I get a lot done. Right now, usually it's just the one. Dexedrine, I can get a lot done. Dexedrine, I can get my entire to-do list done. Plus. Methylphenidate, not so much. Yeah, so he says to even like grade your willpower tasks as to what requires more energy and put the most intensive things first. And this was a really good hack. So he says, every time you put something off, add a point to its difficulty score. So you can see that whatever you scored it as before, like you thought this was like a moderate ability and you could put it in the middle of the day. No, it needs to be prioritized higher because you need more willpower to do it. Otherwise you would have done it already. If you thought it was like an easy activity you could just throw in at the end of the day and you didn't even go near it, bump it up in difficulty level and keep bumping it up until it gets done. If it doesn't get done for 5 days in a row, it should be your priority the next day, you know, depending on what else is going on. But if you're not getting it done, that's a sign that its actual willpower cost is higher than you thought it was. And I thought that was a really smart little tip. I should bold that because I didn't bold that, and I think that's an important thing. Bold. Because yeah, I do that all the time where I have stuff on my to-do list and it doesn't get done. And then the next time it still doesn't get done, and it doesn't get repeatedly, right? I just keep bumping it along. And sometimes those things are unnecessary, or like they're never more important than the thing that is at the top of my list. So it's like, well, whatever. But eventually it's the only important thing left because it keeps moving up in importance, or not in importance, in difficulty. So he talks about, yeah, like, and also including different like ratings for things that are like long-term rewards versus short-terms, things that you know you don't enjoy, things that are new and exciting, or things that are new and scary, kind of like making sure you're accommodating for all the different facets of how a task might be perceived by your brain when it's making decisions of what to do. So I thought that was a really important part of the book. He talks about trying to set yourself up so you don't have to make a bunch of choices, because choice fatigue is absolutely a real thing. If you have to choose all the time what to do and when to do it and how to do it, it builds up. For me, I have to be careful though, because if I schedule myself too rigidly, I just ignore it. And I don't like that either. So if you're like me, one thing you can do is kind of have a to-do list with a bunch of things that need to get done, but again, like I'll put one thing that has to get done that day, or that I want to get done that day, and then everything else will be like, well, I can do some amount of these things in the day, and I'll be happy, you know, if I get 5 out of 7 of them done, or 3 out of 5, or whatever, right? So kind of giving yourself choices on what to work on if you're like me, but limiting those choices to that to-do list, right? So it's not like, well, I don't know what to do, I'll figure it out when I get there. It's like, no, I have a list of like 5 things that should be worked on, and I'll pick 1 or 2 of them. Yeah, and don't forget all the little stuff in your day, things like cleaning, or time to get ready, or commuting time, things like putting stuff away when you're done. That one's I'm bad for, because I'll be like, oh, I have time to do art, you know, and then it's like, oh, well, setup takes maybe 15 minutes, and then it's like, you know, I'll have an hour to do art, and then it's like, oh, okay, but cleanup also takes another 15 to 30 minutes, and all of that, and it's like, if you forget the end bit, it screws it all up, and then you're really exhausted. Also things like social labor and emotional labor, like hanging out with friends and family, remembering things for friends and family, if you have to like do planning or remember commitments, all that stuff actually does take up brain energy and time. Oh, my grandmother is calling. Okay, I'm gonna pause this because I did try to call her earlier and she wasn't available yet, but I'll be back. I'll just put it on, be right back. All right, we're back. I'm sorry that took so long. Like I said, it was my grandmother, and I tried to call her earlier in the day, but she hadn't picked up. She was busy, and then she got her flu and COVID vaccines this week, and she's like wiped from them. She's very like not feeling well because of them. So kind of she was sleeping in, and we wanted to let her rest. But yeah, she's doing well. So that was good. But I will get back to reviewing this book because I still have my notes open, so I know where I left off. So welcome if you're hanging out with me now. We are reviewing the book One Thing by Gary Keller, and we started already. We got a little bit ways through, and we're going to keep going. Hey, Anos! Can you explain the components to implementing the one thing and how they work? Purpose, priority, and productivity, and the downfall of one's myths. You know you have false myths, and another problem is not saying no. Okay, yeah. So okay, I'm trying to think. I think I have notes on, like, I have notes from the whole book. So I'll kind of like, I'll go through kind of what I've got and then see where it ties into things. Definitely about the saying no thing is about like his prioritization system, like making sure you understand exactly what you should be saying yes to and then saying no to anything else that comes up or in the way. Because most people end up with a bunch of things, like I said before, on their to-do list, where it's like all these little things where you're like, oh, I need to do this, I need to do that, I should do this, I have to do that. And it's like, do you really? Or should you say no to those things and just focus your yes energy on the important thing? So kind of some tips for that. Dun, dun, dun. Where are we here? Because we talked about to-do list. We talked about willpower and how you can exhaust your willpower in a day and how to make sure you keep your blood sugar high if you're using a lot of willpower, especially before making decisions. Oh, okay. He has a chapter on balance, and I didn't really like his chapter on balance. In fact, I wrote down the balance chapter is pretty much garbage. Was my note for the balance chapter. He goes off about how balance is unachievable and then just proposes counterbalance, which is the same thing with a different word. So it's like balance and counterbalance, like that's the same concept, buddy. You're just trying to like make your own term for it. So I didn't like that. What do we have here? Okay, so there's a quote from a talk by Carnegie entitled The Road to Business Success, where Carnegie discussed his life as a successful business person and gave advice. The advice was, the prime condition of success, the greatest secret, is to concentrate your energy, thought, and capital exclusively on the business upon which you are engaged. Having begun on one line, resolve to fight it out on that line, to lead in it, adopt every improvement, have the best machinery, and know the most about it. The concerns, like the business concerns which fail, are those which have scattered their capital, which means they have scattered their brains also. So if you're everywhere and all over the place, it's very difficult to be successful, which is something I struggle with a lot because I want to, do everything, and I come up with tons of different ideas, and it's like, okay, I've really got to prioritize what's actually important and not all this other stuff. Okay, focusing. The focusing question collapses all questions into one question. What's the one thing you can do so that by doing it, everything else will be easier or completely unnecessary? And so we talked about that at the beginning of the book. So the big picture question is finding that one thing. So using that one thing to develop a vision for your life, a direction for your career or your company, and kind of using it as your strategic compass. This also works if you're considering what you want to learn or master and what you want to give to others, give back to your community. So after the big picture question, you have the small focus question, which is what's your one thing right now? Because sometimes if you get stuck on the really big picture, you don't know where to go in the moment. So this is what you use when you first wake up and throughout the day. At any given moment, what should you be focused on right now? What is the most important action to take in the moment? What's going to leverage everything else for the day? Find the first domino, basically, in order for a productive week. Yeah, make sure you're asking the right questions to really narrow things down and aim for specific answers. So his suggestions are like, what can I do to increase sales by 5% this year? Kind of something timely and measured so that you actually kind of can set steps to meet it. So he's saying that's good for specific, but it doesn't actually challenge you. So, these are the 4 quadrants. Okay, so for quadrant 4 was small and specific. Quadrant 3 is small and broad. What can I do to increase sales? It's too broad and too specific. So it's brainstorming, but you need more in order to actually narrow it down. What's the date? How much do you want to increase? Which we talked about in the last one. So quadrant 2 is big and broad. So it's all these four areas. How could I double sales? Not specific enough. And then big and specific, what can I do to double sales in 6 months? So now you've got all the elements. You've got something specific. It's a challenging large goal. It's not too small. 5% is small. Doubling is exciting. And it's not easy. It's something that will actually make you work for it. It needs a big answer, and you have to stretch beyond what you think is possible and look outside your standard solutions. So instead of asking a small question, ask a great question. And make it specific. So what's the one thing you could do to double sales in 6 months, such that by doing it, everything else will be easier or unnecessary? Like if you doubled sales in 6 months, what would you not need to do anymore, right? Like if you focused on one product or one client, are there other products or clients you wouldn't even need to do? Or other tasks you wouldn't need to worry about? And if so, why are you worrying about them now? Focus on getting the other thing going, the important thing. Okay, so he says answers to these questions come in 3 categories. Doable, it's a stretch, and it's a possibility. So the easiest one is something that's already within reach of your knowledge, skills, and experience. You probably already know how to do it, and you won't have to change much. This is doable. Next level is stretch. It's within your reach, but it's at the farthest end of your range. You'd probably have to do some research and study others to get there. This might be at the limits of your current abilities, but it's potentially achievable. So then he says high achievers reject those 2 categories and look for something extraordinary. So you need something that's outside of your comfort zone, something that exists beyond what's typically known and done. He mentions researching and studying other high achievers and not stopping there, keeping to look and find what else is happening and what else might be possible. So, this is not new advice, right? This is pretty common advice. So the first thing to do is ask, has anyone else studied or accomplished something like this? Finding the answer is usually yes somewhere along the way. So finding what that is and learning what they learned. And establishing a benchmark for them. So you're not reaching for something that's impossible that no one's ever done before, but something that is you've never done before. So he talks about making that your benchmark or your minimum instead of your maximum. Because after that, you're going to do something else. And he says kind of when you're doing this, you probably have to reinvent yourself in some way because this is an original answer. It's not going to be all the stuff you already know. It will require new behavior. He goes over kind of like some financial questions, kind of things like, how do you pick the number for how much money you want to earn? Like, can you tell me your definition of a financially wealthy person? Like, why did you pick that? Like, why is that a lot of money or why is it not a lot of money? And kind of like really challenging yourself on your assumptions and your thoughts about money and finances. He talks about how if you have a purpose, to be financially wealthy, you need a purpose because otherwise, without a purpose, you never know when you have enough money. You will never be financially wealthy if you don't understand what the purpose of wealth in your life is. Which I think that's important because people are like, well, I want to be rich or I want to be stable or I want to be whatever it is. But it's like, why? Why is that important? Why is this dollar amount important? Why is any of this important? Because if you don't know, then you just end up on that track where people get and they can never make enough money and they're never satisfied and they're never happy and they just keep working and working and working and stressing themselves out more and losing their family. So he talks about the difference between goals that are too far in the future so that you can't clearly see what to do today versus kind of breaking it down so that you get close to what's actually important today. He says, connect your today to all your tomorrows. Because if you just say, well, one day I want X, but that's not connected to what you're doing right now, it needs to actually build, and you need to know what that plan looks like. Hey, Circonus. How's life treating you? Life's treating me pretty well. It looks like a pink theme day. It is a pink theme day. How about you? How's life going? Life was good today because I got a successful interaction with Italian bureaucracy, which is not common. That's difficult to achieve, but it worked. It went well today. So that was good. All right, where were we? We're actually almost through my notes here. Okay, so this was a little like study he wrote about. So psychologists observed 262 students to look at visualization and outcomes. So the students were asked to visualize in one of two ways. The first group was told to visualize the outcome, getting an A on the exam, and the other group was asked to visualize the process needed to achieve that desired outcome, such as all the study sessions needed to earn an A on the exam. In the end, the students who visualized the process performed better. They studied earlier, more frequently, and earned higher grades than those who simply visualized the outcome. So I think that's actually a really useful piece of advice that is kind of talked about, but I love the fact that he has a study to back it up. If you're trying to like set goals and plan and visualize and, you know, do all that kind of like goal setting mental stuff that you're supposed to do, make sure you're visualizing not just the happy, you know, one day fancy result, but like, what does your day-to-day look like in the near future? What does your day-to-day look like in the far future? What does that actual steps look like? Don't just imagine, you know, big sales and success. Imagine the day-to-day of creating a product, of making sales, of talking to customers, of whatever it is that your day-to-day is. Imagine all those parts, not just the fancy glamorous parts at the end. So I thought that was actually really good advice. I've not seen that study before. People are too focused on the end goal of the journey to appreciate the journey. I think that's important too. That's a really good point, right? If you only want the end goal and you hate all the steps along the way, it's probably not going to be a path you're going to do very well on because you're going to hate your life. And also, if you only focus on the end goal, all the parts that might be enjoyable, you can miss out on. You're well, life is good. You've always been a believer in the work hard and pay attention while learning as a means of preparing for the upcoming tests on what you know. Right? I think work hard and pay attention is pretty good advice. So he says, when people are asking what they should do, he'll answer, before I answer that question, let me ask, where are you going and where do you want to be? Right? You can't decide effectively what you should be doing if you don't know where you're going, right? And obviously, this is common advice, but write down your answers. Actually write down what your goals are and how you're going to get there and what your plan is. Pretty standard advice, that one. Too many people try to learn things by cramming hard in a small time frame. It doesn't work well for most. So I agree and disagree. As someone who has extreme ADHD, that was pretty much the only way I could ever study because mostly my ADD was untreated in college and I got by as I got by, and mostly that was through cramming. So it does work well enough to pass and get your degree and keep being in school. But yeah, it obviously doesn't work as well as measured, intentional study in advance. But if that's all you got, it's better than nothing. So also, if you struggle with what I just described, go talk to your doctor about ADHD because that might help. You have to do all the other stuff like actually planning your study and setting yourself up for success and like, you know, having intentions and a schedule and all that junk. But if none of that works and you're doing everything else perfectly, maybe consider talking to your doctor because none of it worked for me. You have a friend with ADHD right now who's pursuing a degree in psychology, and she's what you affectionately call the queen of extensions. Yeah, see, for me, a real deadline, not a fake one. See, I can't do the thing where it's like, well, I'll get the first draft finished week 1 and the second draft finished week 2, and then I'll have another week to finally edit it and hand it in on time. No. Those fake deadlines don't work. The only deadline that works is the real deadline, but I will get it done for the deadline. I don't need an extension. I'll work all night and it'll be done in time to hand in. It might be 5 minutes late because the printer is giving me a hard time and I got to run across campus. But yeah, as long as I can get it in on that and accepted, yeah, I'll get it in. I won't need an extension because the deadline kicked in and suddenly I have dopamine again. Deadlines equal dopamine. Consequences equal dopamine. Fake deadlines do nothing for me. Some people they work for. School, as we all know, isn't where we learn what to do on the job. The job's where you learn the most. The school's just to show prospective employers that you're teachable and trainable. Exactly. I mean, it kind of depends on what you're learning. So like in biochem, for instance, like most of the stuff you're learning actually is, you need that on the job. For things that are more like a liberal arts degree or things like that. Like, yeah, you're learning how to study. You're learning how to learn. You're learning how to communicate and think critically. In the charitable sense. In the non-charitable sense, yeah, you're just showing employers that you can sit at a desk and follow instructions. Your friend is more of the put it off to the last minute, panic, cry for extension, take reduced grades, and barely pass. Yeah, I mean, that also, yeah, like you said, ADHD. It sounds like ADHD combined with like, I want to say like anxiety or something, because for me, when I get to the last minute, the dopamine kicks in and I don't have anxiety or anything. So it's like, I just do it. If you get to the point where it's the last minute and all you can do is panic and cry and you still can't do it, all you can do is ask for an extension. Like that's a whole other problem because now your ADHD isn't even kicking in when it's supposed to, because ADHD does typically kick in on a deadline. Most people have ADHD. Like there's this one TikTok that's really good where it's like, we got to do this group project. Can you get your part done tonight so everyone else can work on it tomorrow over the weekend? And it's like, oh, so you're telling me my part is due tonight. And if I don't get it done tonight, everyone will fail because of me. And the guy's like, no, not really. I mean, it's not due for a week, but it'd be great if you got, he's like, no, you're telling me if I don't do my part tonight, everyone will be mad at me because they're going to fail, right? Like that's the really serious social real consequence that's going to happen if I don't do it tonight. It's like, well, maybe. No, it has to be. And it's like, okay, yeah, that's it. Like there has to be a consequence. And in that case, it's a social one, not a like scholastic one, but either way, it has to be a real consequence. But yeah, and so for most ADD people that works. It's like, oh, it's last minute, let's get it done. If you're the kind of person where that still doesn't work, like you just get freaked out, like you need to be talking to a therapist or a doctor or something, because yeah, like now you're really just not, like your ADHD isn't even helping you with the parts it's supposed to help with. It's supposed to help with last minute deadlines. That's the benefit. Yeah, you told her living life like her would cause you to die from stress. See, the stress is my favorite part. Like I'm insanely productive and effective in crisis situations, stressful situations, high energy situations, anything that requires like things have to happen right now or something goes wrong. Let's fix it. Like, bam, problem solving, crisis management. That's where I thrive. Like, yes, high stress environment. It's not just a thing on a resume. It's a real thing. Because then I get dopamine and my dopamine kicks in and everything else works. But to each their own. Learning how to learn. So she's being forced to work for her brother 40 hours a week. I mean, depends on what the job is. Not good time management on her part. So she comes home exhausted and no place to sit down and study. So again, this is one of those things where I'm the opposite for like typical good advice, which is, make sure you're well rested and that you have enough time to study. For me, I need, and this is in my untreated, the things that burn me out if I try to do them all the time. And after I discovered medication and how to successfully apply medication, I don't need these hacks anymore. But the hack that worked really well for me until I figured out how to do that was overscheduling myself. Like if I was scheduled 25 hours a day, I had to study when I had to study. I had to do my project when I had to do my project because there was no other time in the week to put it off to. It's like if I don't do this project tonight, even though it's due on Friday,
well, I have school tomorrow, then I have work tomorrow evening, then I have school the next day, then I have work the next evening, then I have the projects due in the morning. So it's like, if I literally don't get it done right now, I will not have time to do it. So that worked for me because it was like, well, I can see that I physically will not be able to sit at a desk and do this if I don't do it right now. So that's a real deadline. So yeah, hyper scheduling myself worked really well because everything had to be done or it wouldn't get done. And so I do recommend that if you can't get medication or you don't want to. Just be busy all the time. And then you fall asleep as soon as you hit the bed because you're tired. And then you wake up the next morning because you have to. Because a lot of people think, oh, if I just give myself more free time, I'll be more rested and I can study. If you're like me, that's the opposite of what you want to do because you will have all this free time and you can keep putting stuff off forever, indefinitely. It's like, well, I don't need to do it today because I booked off all of tomorrow, so I'll do it then. And then you get to tomorrow and you're like, well, I don't need to do it today. I'll just rest today and I'll do it tomorrow after work. And it just keeps getting pushed and pushed and pushed. But she won't stand up to her brother. She made her choices and she has to learn as she goes what will and won't work. You're productive in all situations. Excellent. Lucky, lucky, lucky. You can flip the switch and just get it done. Yay, dopamine, right? Yes, lucky, lucky, lucky. Very good. You had an amazing memory as a child, slightly less so as an adult. You could coast on quick memorization if you wanted, and you did so sometimes. But when you were learning coding and doing harder math, you really had to learn how to solve the problem or create a solution. So memories of less importance in learning. Yeah, that's pretty standard, right? Like memories really helpful in like elementary and high school kind of subjects, and then less so in university and this depends on what topic you're doing. If you're doing anatomy or chemistry, you still need a lot of memorization, but then you also start needing in problem solving and critical thinking and all the other stuff. So I agree with that entirely because I really did really well. And I've mentioned on certain subjects it's different for. So things like calculus and chemistry, I did really well in high school and I hated them in university. And it's not like those were not, like they were still critical problem solving things in high school, but the way they taught them was differently. And so it worked better for me. And so then by the time I got to university and you just have to learn everything yourself because what your teacher lectures on in lecture is not even what's on the test and not what's in the textbook. You just have to figure it out on your own. And then that didn't work for me at all because I worked really well from a textbook. I worked really well from in-class examples, and the way they lecture in university just doesn't sink in for me. So it's like, wow, I feel completely betrayed by how I learned to learn in high school because I can't learn like that anymore in university. It just doesn't work here. You feel like writing code is no different than writing in any other language. You need to know your language intimately to be able to express more complicated and deep thoughts and solutions. I absolutely agree with that. Exactly. Like you need to have the deeper and more intrinsic your knowledge is of things like coding or any other language, the better you can put together complicated ideas and solve complicated problems. Writing code versus writing a love letter that doesn't suck. What's the difference? You hated calc in high school, but loved it in college. Yeah, that's interesting. I think the way they teach calculus in college is really broken for most people. I think for some people it works, and I think for some people it works really well. And those are the people who go on to become calculus professors and then continue teaching it in the same way. But for most people, and calculus is in a lot of schools, the most failed class, like Calculus 101 and like first year calculus, kind of first and second year calculus, are the most failed classes in most universities. Like there is a huge problem with the way we're teaching calculus. And if your university didn't have that problem, then I congratulate them on finding a better teaching style. Yeah, you think the kind of teacher can really help with the desire and enthusiasm of learning? I agree. A lot of my college professors, especially in the first, like, most people say like 1 year, but for me it was like the first 3 years and even into fourth year. Like most of my professors were either completely checked out, like they were adjuncts who, had never taught this before and, maybe they were fine. They knew the material, but they didn't know how to teach, or they just didn't care at all. Like they would look at you like you were wasting their time if you did show up to office hours. Half the time they wouldn't even technically even have office hours. They would send you to the TAs. And it was just like, there was no room for like actual teaching. Yeah, and some teachers are so skilled and amazing that they can teach you anything if they wanted. Your college algebra teacher was militant and angry all the time, so that class sucked, right? You're happy to be done with that one. Is that a picture of water or lemonade? This is water, but look at this cute little lime that I grew on my lime tree, and it's actually really tiny. It looks bigger on camera, but it's only like this big because it fell off the tree early. So I have one lemon. I think they're all lemons, but this one's still green. I have one lemon. That's the first one that started growing in the spring, and it's just started to turn yellow. So that's the first one that's going to be a real lemon. And then I think the rest of them will all turn into lemons eventually, but the other two trees are they're delayed because the first one blossomed like a month before the next two, or a couple weeks before the next two trees did. And so they're all on different schedules. But I have one that's turning yellow, and then this one fell off the tree today. So I just sliced it up because it is large enough to actually be a little cute lime slice. But I think they're all lemons technically. Okay, so speaking of lemonade, yesterday, and I'm going to bring this on camera at some point. Yesterday, I tried to make Brazilian lemonade, which is basically just a bunch of limes blended up with condensed milk, and then like you add water and ice and stuff. So I don't own a blender in Italy. I own an immersion blender, like a little handheld one. And I'm like, this should probably do the trick. It did not. It did not in any way do the trick of blending up whole ass limes. Like you slice them up first, but you still need to cut through the rind and everything. And it just couldn't handle it. It just couldn't get them fine enough to be drinkable. So instead I'm like, what do I do with a cup full of blended limes and condensed milk? A little bit of vodka. So I made a cake, and I'm like, I have no idea if this cake is going to work out. Because I kind of like fudged it from another recipe, right? Like I'm like, I need some eggs and some flour and sugar, baking powder. But it turned out into a nice cake. It's actually quite good. It's tasty. I baked it last night, and I made the icing, but I didn't frost it last night because it was still warm. So I let it cool, and now it's cool because it's been 24 hours. So I'm going to frost it later on this stream, and then I'll show you the beautiful lime cake because I sliced it to last night, so I tasted it, and it tasted really good. It was actually quite delicious because it's also super moist because it has all the limes and condensed milk in it, so it stayed really moist. In fact, it took forever to cook because it was just like liquidy. But it turned out really good, so I'm excited to actually ice it and eat it with frosting. So that'll happen later on stream. Okay, I was in the middle of this book. Well, no, I was almost near the end of this book. Okay, where were we at? Writing things down. Okay, so this was a cute little quote. It was kind of, if it's true that time is money, the best way to describe your current time management system might be by the money it makes. Do you think you're using a $10,000 a year system? Are you using a $50,000 a year system? A $1 million a year system? And someone asks, how do you know what system you're using? And he replies, well, how much do you make? That's the system you're using, because that's the result it's getting. So if you're getting however much you're making in a year, your current system, that's the system you got. If you want something different, you have to change your system, which that makes sense to me. So speaking of cooking, are you able to watch a YouTube short right now? Because you found something that makes you want to up your cooking game. You're a fair cook, but you could be better. You have all the family cookbooks from Grandma and Mom, though. Ooh, very exciting. Yeah, if you post a link, I'll mute it and watch it. He talks about making sure you block off the time you need to actually accomplish that thing you've decided is your one thing. If it's a one-time thing, block off the full amount of hours and days, however you need to split it up. If it's a recurring thing, make sure you block it off regularly every day or every week so that it becomes a habit. And schedule everything else around it. Projects, emails, calls, meetings, everything else doesn't take priority. Basically, it's time blocking, which we've seen before, to try to really create a productive day or week that's repeatable. So time blocking, yeah. Making sure you're making appointments with yourself, basically, with your priority, with your one thing. I'm gonna mute the mic and watch the YouTube. Be right back. Oh yeah, that's really sweet. Homemade pasta. I've never dipped into I'm trying to think if I've made homemade. I probably made homemade pasta at least once in my life, but it's not something I regularly make. But I assume at some point I'll want to get better at that. Yeah, that's really sweet of him. It feels like he kind of knew that that's what she'd ask for, and it was like, I'm ready. What were we saying? Okay, yeah, making an appointment with yourself to make sure things get done and like booking it into your schedule so that other stuff doesn't take priority accidentally. Especially if you're working with other people who are going to schedule meetings and going to schedule other things around you. If you book it in, then they know they can't book there. And also make sure if you have something that's part of your profession, your job, your career, that's the important thing by default in your career. Like if you're a programmer, make sure you schedule time for programming. If you're an artist, make sure you schedule time to paint. If you're a salesperson, make sure you schedule time to talk to customers. Like all the things that are, whatever's the most important in your job, like obviously make sure you're not forgetting about that as well. Like run your business every day. He talks about trying to schedule large time blocks instead of small ones. Oh, and he talked about how, who is this? Paul Graham talked about dividing work into two buckets, making or managing. So doing and creating is the making work, and the other category is manager, so overseeing or directing. So things like the actual thing you produce in your business and all the other stuff. Yeah, maker time requires larger blocks of time because you're generating ideas, you're producing things, you're making things happen, developing all of that, and executing. He suggests half-day increments for those kind of tasks, whereas manager time, on the other hand, can be divided into hours. Things like meetings, things like catching up on email, things like all of the little details that need to be done but don't need a huge amount of like focused, creative, or productive brain power. Smaller tasks. Yeah, so talking about how if you're pulled into meetings at odd hours that break up your large time blocks, that can really hold you back. Or distractions or whatever it is. You haven't done pasta, but you want to try. Yeah. I feel like pasta is one of those things that feels really difficult, but isn't actually so difficult. And depending on what type of pasta you're making and if you have the right tools, some pasta you roll out by hand and you don't need a fancy pasta press or a slicer or an extruder or whatever. But, you know, if you want to do the fancy stuff, you buy the tool and you can do that too. It's talking about trying to cluster meetings at the end of the day instead of in the morning so you don't waste your good morning energy if you're a morning person. And putting them all together so they're not interspersed, breaking up your day. Talks about being a maker in the morning and a manager in the afternoon, because for most people that's when their best energy is. So make the thing first and then run the business in the afternoon. Yeah, simply focus on making the next X, whatever that is. Perseverance is not a long race. It is many short races, one after another. And as you build a chain, that gets easier and easier. Yeah, knock over the most important domino and then everything else kind of falls a bit easier. Okay, what else do we have? Yeah, protecting your time blocks. Yeah, make sure they can't be moved. That's an appointment you have. It's like, I'm sorry, I can't move that appointment. Could make a nice dish with fish and vegetables. That would make your mouth water, but you feel like it's low effort. I mean, low effort is as low effort does. Like if it tastes fantastic, then that's the whole point, right? Like some of my favorite things are pretty easy to make, but it's like, well, it's delicious. You want to add a couple trickier things to your arsenals, then people will beg you to make them, right? When you have a couple like signature dishes that you're like, oh, this is so good and I can make it and I know it's going to turn out every time and people love it. Those are the best dishes. Like one of my dishes that's actually, it's not difficult to prepare because it's basically a salad. Like it's not cooking skills or anything required. You just have to put everything together in the right way. But I have this like Thai salad with like noodles and greenery and peanuts and chili sauce, and it's so good and it's a crowd pleaser. Like everyone loves this salad, but it's like not difficult to prepare. You just need a bunch of ingredients and put them all together. So it's great to have because it's kind of a surprising one. Everyone's like, oh, I don't know about that, and then they try it and they're like, I want more of this. Yeah, usually when people bake well, they have things that are to die for, but baking's not your jam. I like baking. I have a couple things that I like baking, but like my raspberry white chocolate scones. Love those. Those are so good. But yeah, I don't know. Half the time I just like buying stuff because I'm too lazy to bake. But cooking I don't mind doing for dinner because usually I can cook something in like 10 minutes or 30 minutes and it's done, and then it's easy and fast. But baking is one of those things where it's like, this is gonna take like 10 minutes for setup, and then I have to mix it, and then I have to bake it, and then by the time I'm done, like it's gonna be an hour later, and am I even gonna want the cookies in an hour? And I mean, the answer is usually yes, but also I've probably forgotten about them by then, and I have to be reminded 3 hours later that, oh yeah, there's cookies on the counter. I should eat those because I made them. Or like, for instance, my cake today, which I made yesterday and haven't even iced yet because, well, today was pretty busy, but not that busy. Okay, so he talks about the difficulty in navigating high-level requests if it's your boss or your client or your mom who's asking you to do something. Like, how do you get around that? And he mentions one of the ways is to say, yes, can I have that done by X time? Would that work? Instead of being like, I'll do it right now. It's like, well, if I got it done by the end of the day, would that be okay still? Right? And, you know, being aware of the context, right? If your boss needs something done right now, maybe he needs it done right now, but maybe he needs it done by the end of the day. He mentions that a lot of the time, these high priority requests are actually more about the immediate need to hand the task off and not so much a need for it to actually be done immediately. The requester just wants to know it will get done and when, which I think is very insightful because I think a lot of people, and this goes back to, I think, Janos, you were asking about how to say no to things. I think a lot of times when you have requests from people, it can feel like you have to do it and you have to do it right now because you said yes. But really, if you spend time asking like, hey, when does this need to be done by? Like, could I do this for you at some point this week, right? If someone's asking for a favor or something, right? Like, oh, does it need to be today or could I get it done by Wednesday? And then kind of actually scheduling so that the person who needs it done knows it's going to get done, and then they can relax, and then you can relax and schedule it when you have time. And sometimes the request is immediate and you just got to do it. And he mentions actually immediately rescheduling that time block that you're replacing so you don't forget about it. Okay, mastery. People assume mastery is an end result, but really it's more of a way of thinking and a way of acting and the journey that you experience. Talks about the 10,000 hour rule from Anders Ericsson, which I think came into pop culture a couple years ago. But basically the idea that mastery comes from deliberate practice over a long period of time. And that's been a little bit debunked as well, but I think the basic premise stands strong. Like, people who achieve mastery in something are the people who put in the time. Like, they put in the effort, they put in the right effort. It's not just mindless repetition. You have to actually learn what you're doing and keep learning. And he talks about how you had to seek out the right teachers, the right coaches, and have supervised training, whereas the amateurs simply engage in kind of repeated mindless practice where they're not actually getting better, they're just doing the same thing over and over. If you want to get better, you actually have to get someone who knows it better than you and can tell you what you're doing wrong and how to fix it. Otherwise, you're just kind of fumbling in the dark. Are you doing something to do the best you can do? Or are you doing it to do the best it can be done? And kind of like, what is the best this could be done? Like, maybe I'm not there yet, but what does that look like? And what should I be striving for? You like buying things and appreciate the options. Yeah, sometimes you just want to fast forward to the eating and enjoying. Yeah, exactly. If you're not willing to change what you're doing, are you really doing it the best that it could be done? The path of mastery is the path of mastery is the combination of not only doing the best you can do, but also the best it can be done. So continually striving for better. Hey, Pika Pika, how are you today? Okay. It talks about entrepreneurial versus purposeful. So entrepreneurial is the natural approach of seeing something needs to be done and racing off to do it. But natural ability has a level where it eventually tops out. Entrepreneurial is going to get straight to something, whereas purposeful, the difference is they're going to ask, what's the best way to do this? What's the fastest, most efficient way? Instead of just diving right in, it's actually determining whether diving right in is the best way to do it before doing it. You're cool today. I'm good. Had a good day. Successful. Yeah, we're reading The One Thing, and we're almost through my notes on it. Although I keep saying that, and there keeps being more, so it was quite a long book. That's why it took me forever to finish reading it. You're off, Zirconis. Gotta run. Adulting never stops. It's true. I'm glad you stopped by. I hope I will see you again soon. Have a good night. Day, whatever it is where you are. Okay, so we were talking about this earlier, kind of the ability to say no. The thieves of productivity. So inability to say no, a fear of chaos, poor health, and poor environment. So I'm going to go through all of those. So inability to say no. The quote, one yes must be defended by 1,000 no's. When you decide to do something, you have to acknowledge what you're deciding not to do. And this is where I really struggle, because I want to say yes to every idea I have. Because if I had the idea, I usually like it because it's my own idea and there's a reason I thought of it. So I'm like, that's such a great idea. I should do that. But it's like, what have I already decided to do? And should I maybe finish that thing first? And sometimes the answer is yes, and sometimes the answer is no. But the answer is yes more often than I actually succeed in prioritizing the thing I've already decided. So that's what I'm working on a lot in my own life, which is not adding new stuff to my plate. It's like, well, you already decided that this was going to be the yes and everything else is going to be a no. So I've got to commit to being like, no. Just because it's a great idea, you already made a commitment. You have to say no to the new thing. And that's very difficult for me. Work just chases you. Oh no. Find peace in your day as well. Poor health check. Yeah. Dun, dun, dun. So screenwriter Sidney Howard, who wrote Gone with the Wind, advised, one half of knowing what you want is knowing what you must give up before you get it. And so this is something I've kind of worked with in the past, which is like deliberately thinking through and writing down what you're turning down in order to focus on this priority. So like, if you want this goal, what will you not be able to do? Like, think through it in advance. What will you have to say no to that you know is going to arise? And what will you have to say no to that might arise, that you're maybe not expecting but could happen? Would you still say no to it? Like, is this priority more important? And so kind of consciously, intentionally deciding that, hey, yeah, I'm probably going to have a bunch of other great ideas that I really want to jump on, but I'm intentionally deciding that when that happens, I will say no and I will put those aside. And maybe I won't like give up on them, but I will make them not a priority and I will wait to work on them until I finish this first priority, because that's what prioritization means. And that's where I struggle. So that's one of the parts of this book that was very not novel to me, but it's the part I need help with. And so that's kind of, it was good to have it reinforced, because yes, I do need to very consciously pay more attention to what I am choosing to give up or not work on when I choose to do something. Okay, fear of chaos. The guaranteed consequence of focusing on one thing is that other things won't get done. You have to accept that, but it doesn't necessarily make you feel better about it, because chaos is going to show up. When you focus on one thing, other areas of your life are going to experience chaos in direct proportion to your prioritization. It's important to accept instead of fighting it. It's important to be aware of it in advance. Like, yeah, if you are really focusing on one thing, other stuff is going to get less attention. That's a consequence that that if you don't understand and accept, you end up running around trying to put out fires that maybe don't need to be put out, or don't need to put out by you, or don't need to put out right now. And if you intentionally decided that at the beginning, you'd be like, no, that's gonna be resolved later by someone else, not by me right now. Relatable used to be good courses and just hoarding on things. Less is more. Indirect act to priority. What is ACK? Indirect act to prior access? Okay, where are we? Okay, so Francis Ford Coppola, the filmmaker, warned, anything you build on a large scale or with intense passion invites chaos. So being aware and accepting of that is important. And I think that's very true, because any big projects, like, you have to be prepared that stuff's gonna come out of nowhere. Things that you don't expect are gonna happen. People are gonna do stuff you don't expect. Things are gonna go wrong. And things are gonna go wrong in other areas of your life or work or whatever. So you have to be prepared for all of it. And I think that's really important to think about. You may have to trade off time with others to protect your time. And in turn, you can protect theirs. You know, this may be your family or your coworkers. Yeah, beg, barter, be creative about getting people to help you and be able to help them. Don't be a victim, and don't sacrifice, you know, when you want to say, I just can't make it work. Try to find a way to make it work. Try to get others to help you. When you argue for your limitations, you get to keep them. I think that's a pretty good quote. According. Quoting the things that you like. Yeah, I'm gonna have to go through this and make sure I've added these quotes to my quote log that I use for my, when I post a quote on my co-working frame, which I was gonna do later tonight, but I feel like I've spent a long time on this book now, and then I had a phone call. So I don't know if we'll do co-working today or not, but maybe. Probably one co-working session today. Yeah, when you argue for your limitations, you get to keep them. I think that's a very good one. Poor health habits. Some people go for success by sacrificing their health, staying up late, missing meals, eating poorly, no exercise. If you allow this to become an afterthought, this suffering becomes acceptable. But if you're cheating yourself, the gamble will not pay off. Consistently, it's going to short circuit your work overtime, and it's dangerous to assume that your health and family will be waiting for you to come back at any time in the future. Especially, health and people. If you assume, oh, I can always get around to that in the future, you might not have that future. Your body might have something go wrong. Your body might have all the natural stuff go wrong. Prioritize your health and those close to you, because, you never know when you're not going to have them anymore, and you can't get them back once they're gone. So things like, his tips are pretty obvious. Meditate, eating healthy, exercising, spending time with your loved ones, getting enough sleep. Yeah, if your response is you have too much to do that, then go back to the beginning of the book and start over, because you've missed something. Your one thing has to include being functional. When you connected health with success, that is the reason. So the next point is... I called you out on that one, right? And so for me, I was talking earlier about how when I was operating under all of my terrible life hacks to deal with ADD without good medication, one of the things I do is schedule myself 25 hours a day so that everything gets done because it has to get done. But eventually this is a terrible long-term plan because it burns you out. And I know that, which is why I don't try to operate that way. But it did work. It just doesn't work for long. So it's exactly that. It's like, it works. It works great. You can get so much stuff done. But then it's all going to backfire. And so it's, I've been very deliberate in finding better ways to deal with things like medication and more systems and reading books like this. Because if you fuck up your health, and you can afford to do it a little bit when you're really young, like when you're college age and early 20s, sure, you can push things a little bit harder because that is the age to do it, right? Like, do it at that age because you won't be able to do it later. But don't do it too much and don't do it for too long, because you need to build those healthy habits or you'll never get into them. You will just keep doing it until you can't anymore, and then it'll be too late. And B, you don't want to be doing it for longer than you have to, because you want to start enjoying your life and living healthily. Because the sooner you start doing that, the healthier you will be longer. In early 20s, so there's plenty of time to make changes. Just being in the moment is so important. When you realize that, And people are here for a limited time. Exactly. You don't know how long anyone's going to be around for, so don't waste your time with them. That's one of the things, it wasn't this book, it was one of the previous books I did for book club, and one of the pieces of advice was just to call your loved ones every day, because that's the thing that it's one of the things that is the most regretted by people in their lives and is the most appreciated by people in their lives. So people who don't do it, they regret that they didn't call their family more often. People who do it, they appreciate that they called their family like every day or on a regular schedule. And so that's something I've been very, like, that's why I took that phone call from my grandmother earlier, because I've been very conscious of trying to implement that in my life, because it's something that I'm very bad at, making phone calls and staying in touch with people. And, you know, like, I'll message people very rarely or call people rarely, even my family. And so over the past year or two, I've been very intentionally implementing that in my life and being like, I am going to regret this if I don't make it a priority. If I don't call my family all the time, that's going to be a problem down the line. Like, I don't want to regret that. So I've been very careful to implement that in my life. And I'm calling people a lot more than I used to. So it's working. Okay. An environment that supports your goals. Surrounding yourself with the right people is important. Attitude thieves will rob you of energy, effort, and resolve. But supportive people will do what they can to encourage and assist you. It was actually really great having my friend here for the month, because she's a very supportive, encouraging, kind of ambitious person. Like, she has big goals like I do. So when I say something like, you know, this is my huge goal, she'll be like, yeah, okay, so what are you doing next? Whereas a lot of people in my life are, and this is not a problem for them, because they have their own goals in life and they are not my type of ambitious goals, which is fine. What makes them happy is not what makes me happy. But when I say, like, hey, I want to start a company and I want to move to Italy and I want to do X, Y, and Z, they go, are you sure? Like, really? Wouldn't you be happier if you just, like, stayed in Canada and worked for a company and you got a steady job and all that? And I'm like, no. And then you get someone who's supportive and encouraging, and when you say, I want to do X, Y, and Z, and they go, oh, cool, okay, so what are you going to do next? Okay, so what's the problem you're dealing with right now? Okay, what's holding you back? And, like, actually pushes you forward instead of tries to be like, are you sure? And it's nice to have both types around, but it's very important to make sure you prioritize having the second type around if your family and friends are naturally in the first camp. But if you're in the first camp too, that's also fine, as long as your goals make you happy. That's 100% okay. And you should have goals that make you happy. Not just strive for something because you think you should. But I wouldn't be happy if I don't try to reach ambitious goals. Even if I don't succeed in them, as long as I'm trying, that's what's going to make me happy. If I didn't even try, I would feel regret. Dun, dun, dun. Okay, so being with success-minded people creates what researchers called a positive spiral of success. They lift you up and help push you. It talks about your physical environment, making sure you have an environment that supports your goals. The road to success is always under construction. But don't allow yourself to be detoured from your one thing. It talks about the purpose of life being to be useful, to be responsible, to be compassionate. Above all, to matter, to count, to stand for something, and to have made a difference that you lived it all, instead of just having the purpose of life to be happy. And I agree with that. I think life is important to have goals that help others, goals that make a positive difference either in the world or at least to one person, right? You don't have to change the world, but if you're making one person's life better, I think that's more important than just trying to make yourself happy. And I think a lot of people strive for just trying to make themselves happy and then end up wondering why they're so depressed, why they're so anxious, why they are stressed, why they don't like their job, and they're struggling with their family. And it's like, well, because all of your goal is about trying to make yourself happy. Try to make other people happy. Try to make the world a better place. Try to do something positive, impactful with your life, and then the rest of that stuff is gonna come along with it. Okay, it talks about like dreaming bigger than you think. Kind of write down your income, keep multiplying it and asking how you feel by those numbers. Like if you multiply it by 2, how does that make you feel? Could you get there in 5 years? Keep doubling the number until you can't. And then figure out what actions you'd have to make to get there. Yeah, don't stay in Canada. I'm in Rome right now. So that part I was very, very firm on. I'm like, I am moving to Italy. And if Italy lets me stay, I'm staying here forever. And if they don't let me stay, then I will keep trying until they do. I'm staying in Italy for damn sure. Yeah, goals that are bigger than themselves for the good of humankind. Exactly, right? Mm-hmm. He says, like, income is only one example. This kind of, like, bigger than you expect thinking can apply to your spiritual life, your physical life, your personal relationships, your career, your business, everything, right? Don't just set goals that you think are expected. Imagine what it would be like if that goal was multiple times grander or bigger or more effective. What would that look like? And for some things that, like, you know, that bottoms out because it's like, well, I want a, you know, a successful relationship and family. And it's like, well, there's only like so much like that can even, like, the concept of doubling that can even apply. So if you're like, well, I want to make sure I spend time with my family. And it's like, okay, well, if you just keep doubling that time, that doesn't work. If you want to make sure like the quality of time you spend with your family is important. Like, again, like, yes, could you improve that and increase that? Yes, probably you could increase the quality and time. But there's a point where it kind of tops out for things that aren't money. But it's still an important idea. Like, what would it look like if I was twice as invested in my family life? Like, what would it look like if I was twice as devoted to my spouse? Like, what would I act like? What would that be like? All right. Yeah, extraordinary results require you to go small. To get your focus as small as possible to simplify your thinking and crystallize what you need to do. No matter how big you think, when you know where you're going, you can work backwards to what you need to do to get there. Then you'll discover there's a small step. So that's the end of my notes for this one. I think that kind of comes back to what I was saying before, which is working from a big picture goal and making sure you know how the steps are broken down into what you need to do today. I always forget how much talking actually like wears you out physically, because I think like, oh, I'm on stream all the time and I talk all the time on stream, but I don't usually talk for an hour and a half straight, even when I'm on stream, even when it's a chatty stream. So it's always like, oh my goodness, like I can hear it in my throat. I sound different now that I've been talking for so long, because I wasn't talking on stream the whole time, but I was talking on the phone for the time I wasn't talking on stream. So yeah. Oh my goodness. Okay, so we're going to do a co-working period because I can't talk anymore. But that was the one thing. I do recommend it. It was one of those motivation-y books that's a little over-bloated. There's a lot of stuff that was kind of repeated and it took a long time to read. For a lot of the parts could have been simplified or cut, but the parts that were good, and I did appreciate reading it, so I do recommend it, but feel free to skim parts that you're like, I've read this in another book, because there was a bunch of stuff in there that I definitely read in other books, and I kind of skimmed through, and it still took me a long time to read, so. But overall, recommended. I think I had one book on this channel where I'm like, I don't recommend this unless you really haven't read anything else in the field of personal development, because it was like, there was nothing original in it, but this book was not that book. This book was pretty good and had some original points. I don't remember which one that was. There'll be a book club somewhere in my history that is that one. Okay, let's switch over the screen. What are we doing here? Transition. There we go. Okay. Oh, I put hours of work too. I'm gonna bump that right down to 1 because this is already took longer than I thought. Oops, no, 0, 1. There we go. We'll do 1 hour of co-working. Okay, and let's set off the timer. 45 minutes on the clock. Who's ready to get some focus time and get some work done? Or just chill and relax to the nice gentle music? Okay, what do I actually need to do? I'm going to turn the mic off in a sec, but I'm just going to figure out what my immediate goal is. Oh, I want to frost that stupid cake. Okay, I don't want to do that right now because I want to talk when I'm doing that, so maybe I'll frost the cake before stream's over after I've rested my voice for 45 minutes. Okay, I'll do some marketing. Alright, I'll be back on mic in a bit.
Yo.
All right, how's everyone doing? That was a really productive work period for me because I've been considering doing a new Kickstarter for a new book property that I'm working with for my little publishing enterprise. And I kind of, obviously a little bit scared off of Kickstarter because the last one didn't go through, but I feel like I could maybe do this one a little bit simpler and a little bit easier. And I just checked a bunch of shipping from Amazon KDP printing, and I'm like, oh, I could actually make this work because their international shipping is all generally about $10 to $15. And I'm like, that's fairly consistent. So I was getting worried about the shipping, and I know you can actually do shipping, charge shipping after, but people don't like that. So I'm really pleased if I could just do it in advance and be like, well, it's all a reasonable price. Alright, so let's frost this cake because I'm super excited to put it all together. I took the icing out of the fridge and let it warm up to room temperature. Well, I don't know, it's been out for 10 minutes. But oh my god, no, Jesus Christ. I do not want to turn on Carré browsing ever. Just keyboard smashed. So I'm feeling good about that. That was something I've been putting off for forever because I didn't want to go through the math hassle of starting a Kickstarter, and I obviously haven't finished the math part yet, but I'm feeling like I could do that tomorrow. And I do plan to do co-working tomorrow. So if I do a full 8-hour co-working stream, or at least like 4 to 6 is my plan, I think I can get a Kickstarter going by tomorrow. So we'll try. Let's make some cake. I'm gonna bring it over here. Okay, I'm not sure what to frost this with, but let's figure it out. I do have this guy, which I feel like should be good for frosting, and I'm going to bring over a spatula as well, in case that works better. I'm not good at frosting cakes. They always turn out looking just god-awful. So this might not look very good when I'm done, but we're going to have fun. Okay, we are also going to slice up a little lime for decoration because I looked up how to decorate like a simple cake with lime, and I found some really cute decorations that were really just like a couple slices of lime on top. I'm like, I can do that because I didn't want anything too complicated, and I don't have enough icing to like do fancy icing swirls or anything, but I do have enough icing to do that cute, like, you know, that kind of naked cake look where it's kind of just roughly frosted around the edges and stuff. So we're gonna do that. All right, so I've got my 2 cake slices, which I baked as one and then put in a Ziploc bag so they wouldn't dry out overnight. But honestly, this cake's so moist because it's full of condensed milk and limes that it really wouldn't have dried out anyways. Okay, so what do I want to do? I want to put this one on the bottom probably, and then probably the round bit on top like that. And then we're going to frost it all around. I should look up a YouTube tutorial on cake frosting, but I'm not going to. I'm just going to frost it. and see what happens. So, you know, we'll see how it goes. All right, let's, I'm scared. I'm scared to do this because I'm bad at this. Okay, well, wait until no, I should cut up the lime now because I'm probably gonna get my fingers covered in icing. And so if I chop up the lime first, then that's done. Okay, how do I want to do this? I probably want just like round slices because they look really pretty. I should look up the photos I did save already because I already did that research. And like I said, I'm not going to bother going on YouTube for advice on this. So I should at least look up my cake pictures. Okay, so that's the first one. I turn the brightness down. Okay, that's the first one. So kind of that one has crumbs and stuff and we don't have crumbs, but I like the little kind of stack of the limes. And then the second one looks like that. No, I don't have flowers, but the kind of circle looks cute too. So focus. Yeah, so I don't know, we'll do one of those. I like the way the icing's kind of dripping down the side on this one, but and it's flat like my cake. But I also like this kind of look where it's kind of that you can see the layers of the cake in between too. So we'll see what turns out as I do this because I'm not good at frosting cakes. Let's try though. Okay, let's see how, no, slice the lime first. I'm like, let's check the icing. No, slice the lime. Let's go. Okay. Now I don't have any real sharp knives in my house anymore because I just bought these cheap ones and they're not sharp anymore. Okay, I think I want really thin slices. Maybe I should have grabbed the heavier duty knife. Oh yeah, this table is also not very stable, so it's not a good one to be cutting something on, but not because it's dangerous, but because the table itself is in danger. Okay, I'm just trying to get really thin, pretty slices here. God, this knife is terrible now. I bet if I sharpened it, I could get a lot more life out of it, but I don't have a sharpener and I don't know what I'm doing. Hey, English Pudding, how's it going? We are frosting a cake now. What are you up to today? I like your name. Okay, yeah, this is slicing really nice actually. I can probably get one more here before I start to get into the danger of cutting myself. So, and I don't need that many, so that's probably enough. Okay, beautiful. We got lime slices now. So let's put those to the side. And I don't know, try to frost this cake, I guess. I've just put it on a plate because I don't know what else to do with it. And no, I'm gonna look up some instructions because I feel like there's things you're supposed to do first. Like you're supposed to put something down before you just try to put icing on a cake. And I feel like I should know some of this. I should look it up on this. No, I need to chat on my computer. Let's look it up on my phone. Okay. How to frost a cake. I like how I'm like, I'm not gonna look this up, and I'm like, no, I'm too scared, I need to look it up. You're good. I'm good too. That should have been Yorkshire pudding, but some genius already had it. You're chilling after work, thinking of starting to read your new book. Ooh, what's your new book? We did book club earlier. What are you reading? Okay. Okay, yeah, it says put a bit of frosting on the bottom so it doesn't move around. This cake's actually like super wet, so I feel like it won't anyway, so I'm not gonna worry about that. Okay, spread frosting over the top, add layers, apply a crumb coating. See, I feel like crumb coating is the thing I'm thinking of in my brain, and I'm like, how do you do that? I think you just put a layer on first, and then you put more layers on top. Okay, at room temperature, yes. Oh, this person says chill the cake in the fridge. I didn't do that. Okay, level off the layers. I did that. And I already ate the scraps. Okay, make sure the frosting's at room temperature too. I did that. Oh, it says use a mixer to re-fluff it up again. I could do that. The mixer is right over there. What's the consistency of this? feel like I'm too lazy to do that. Maybe I'll just like hand kind of mix it up a little bit. Yeah, that looks pretty nice consistency. We've had it for a while. Three Sisters by Heather Morris. Ooh, what's it about? Okay, I don't need any of these fancy things. Tell me how to do a crumb coat. Okay, so do the in-between layers. I only have one layer. Then spread a thin coating of frosting all over the top and sides, pressing the knife or spatula against the cake. Then scrape most of the frosting away, scraping away any crumbs as well. Okay, this is the part I needed advice on. I knew there was steps to this. Clean the spatula or knife, discard the frosting that's full of crumbs, and then you can put the second coat on better. So I think the sides I might even kind of want those to be a little bit crummy to get that kind of rustic look. Oh, you can chill it in the fridge before putting on the final. So if I'm struggling with the final step, I'll chill it in the fridge. And then frost with the remaining. Okay, I'm feeling more confident on this. Let's give it a try. Okay, so first layer away. Where did I put that stupid Ziploc? Okay, first layer over here, or top layer over here. First layer here. Okay, so we already have crumbs everywhere. So let's get rid of those, just all over my floor. It's an account of real-life siblings held in the notorious death camp. Three Sisters follows its protagonist from wartime Poland to communist Slovakia and beyond, all about the Nazis and concentration camps. Ah, okay. Yeah, that's crazy if it's like based on a real story. Okay, frosting the middle layer. Good. Let's go. Okay. This is just the center layer. Okay, good. I forgot how small this cake is. It's so tiny. So I'm like, I don't have very much frosting, but I'm like, I don't need very much frosting. It's a tiny cake. Yeah, I don't want to push it too close to the edges because it's probably going to push itself out of the edges anyway, but I do want it to have a nice layer in there. Oh, if I had like lime curd or like lemon honey or something in my fridge, this would be perfect for adding inside of this cake, but I don't, so I'm not going to worry about it. But that would be a nice touch if I ever make this again. This is such a like random chance accident cake to make in the first place, but you never know. Okay, that looks good. All right, let's add the top. Bam! Okay, there's a layer of frosting in there now. You want cake now? Right? I'm super excited to eat this thing. I was eating crumbs of it, like scraps of it yesterday when I trimmed it to size, and it was pretty tasty. Okay, what am I doing? I'm doing the crumb coat, so just a thin layer all over, and then we're just going to scrape off the crumbs. Okay, got it. So I don't need to worry about making this nice and pretty. It's just to go around and collect crumbs. Okay, this isn't actually super crummy. I think it's gonna work pretty nicely. I might not even need to do a two-layer system here. I might just be able to get it working. think I might put it in the fridge though, because it's so warm. It's just like the icing's kind of dripping everywhere, and I feel like if I kind of cooled it down a little, it might do a little better. Okay, so we're collecting all the crumbs now. I'm just kind of putting them on top. There isn't a lot of crumbs. I feel like my cake is relatively not crumbly. Okay, okay, I'm not sure what I want to do now. Do I want to put it in the fridge? Do I want to just try to ice it? What do I want to do here? I feel like at the very least I need to move it to a new plate so it looks better. Or I guess I just could use like a paper towel and clean up the sides. Okay, what do I want to do? I don't know how to finish this.
Yo.
Yeah, I know, timer. We're done now anyways, we're just doing cake. Okay. Yeah, I'm just kind of messing around now because I'm kind of waiting for it to inspire me as to how I want to finish this off. Okay. All right, what do I want to do here? Cake sandwich, exactly. It's just a 2-layer. Okay, what are my options? I could move it to a new plate, refrost it. I could cool down the cake and the icing and then frost it in 5 or 10 minutes. I could frost it right now on the plate and then clean up the plate after. I feel like this frosting is too liquidy and I want it to be a little bit more like, I don't know, that actually feels, I was gonna say responsive, but then everything I just did to it, it moved exactly how I wanted it to. So I'm like, oh, maybe it's actually fine. I think I'm gonna put it in the fridge for at least 5 minutes because I feel like it's just, I want it to be more liquidy, more solid, less liquidy. Okay, I'm gonna put it in the fridge. I'm gonna reset this timer because I'm still cake frosting here. And yeah, we'll come back. Well, I'll be here, but the cake will come back in 5 minutes. And then we will finish frosting it. Okay, let's see if I have room in my fridge for both the cake and icing. Ha 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 ha. The hard questions. Okay, I put them both in the fridge. We're gonna wait 5 minutes. Just give them a little bit of time to cool down because I do keep my, well, actually not that warm. I haven't had to turn the heat on or anything, but I keep my room is a pretty warm temperature. It's probably 20 degrees, but maybe a bit more. And I'm excited for this cake. I like my little lime slices too. I think they're gonna look pretty on top. Bam. And my miniature lime. I think that was technically a lemon. Okay. Well, we've been streaming for 3 hours. Okay. Look at my cake pictures again. See, like my icing was nowhere near thick enough to be able to like put a layer of frosting in the middle, like a thick layer. So I don't know, I guess you need to keep your icing less room temperature for that, but the instructions I read said to put it at room temperature. So I don't know. I guess my frosting is maybe just not as thick as it could be. I didn't didn't fully, I don't know, could have whipped it more, I guess. What book were you reading? We were reading a business, I don't know, motivation book called The One Thing by Gary someone. But it was pretty good. It had, it was quite a long one, and it had a lot of like filler material, not filler material, but material that's been done before in other books. But it also had a couple points that were really good and useful. So The One Thing, and it was quite, it was a good one. It was worth reading, but it's not the one I would recommend first. But yeah, I quite enjoyed it. Okay. I think I'm confident on this. I just need it to cool down a little bit. Okay. Oh, I guess I should be spending my time doing this. I should spend my time finding someone to raid, because I'm going to need that in about 15 minutes. Instead of timer, I was figuring I would use the timer on the stream, but then I didn't actually check the timer on the stream, but I feel like it's probably been a couple minutes. All right, I'm gonna go check on the cake. I don't even know how I'm gonna tell if it's cold enough. Okay, I guess I'm just gonna try and see if it's any different in consistency or not. I have no idea what I'm doing, you guys. This is not a cake baking channel, in case you hadn't noticed. In case you couldn't tell. Okay. left, so I should try to use it. Okay. I don't know if that's any different or not. I feel like it is actually moving a little bit slower. Yeah, it's more like textured-y, which I guess means like probably like the butter and stuff is like solidifying again. So that probably means it has experienced the fridge in some way, I guess. This actually doesn't look too bad. This is not the worst thing I've ever done. I should have made a thicker inside coat though. Now I regret not doing that because I have way too much icing for the outside. So I guess I will frost the outside edges too. I kind of wasn't going to do that, but I have a lot of frosting left over. So I definitely should have cooled it down and tried to make the inside layer thicker, but it is too late for that now because to take this whole thing apart would probably ruin it. And I'm just not going to do that. All right, that's all of the icing. So I just got to make it look nice now. I really don't. Oh, okay, there we go. I figured it would kind of get some natural drips along the sides, and I'm like, that'll probably look good. But other than that, I really don't know what I'm doing. I guess I'm gonna put limes on top of everything, so then that'll kind of make it look more natural. I don't know. Okay, I'm trying to smooth and flatten out the top now so that I get some more drips and so that the top looks smooth and flat. Yeah, cooling it down was definitely the right thing to do because the frosting is now kind of like it's stacking on itself and maintaining a nice shape instead of kind of thinning out too much. Okay, oh, I don't want it to drip like a ton. God damn it, team. Get back up there. Okay, move over here maybe. I also don't know what I'm doing with like my frosting pattern here, but I think that's okay. I don't know. It's a cake, you guys. I guess we're done here. What do other people do? Just kind of like little, make it look like stucco. Just kind of fancy it up, I guess. That's not too bad. That doesn't look awful. That kind of looks fancy. Thank God this is a hobby I have never gotten into before because I have enough goddamn hobbies. And yeah, cake decorating I do not need in my life. I already have cookie decorating. That's enough. I make nice fancy gingerbread cookies at Christmas. And that's honestly, I think that's enough baking for me. Like for now, I don't need to be into any more. Okay, I'm gonna transfer it to another plate because obviously this one's dirty now. Thankfully I did the dishes today, so I have extra plates. And I'm gonna use this. And then we're gonna put the limes on top and then it's gonna be done. And then I'm gonna eat it. Okay, all right, this seems dangerous, but I think I can do it. All right, cake, let's go. I'm really glad I didn't try to stick it to the bottom of the plate now. Okay. Not too shabby. It's not quite centered, but I think we're okay. Taking that back up. I don't know if I should have done that. I have so much extra icing. Okay, cute little limes. What are we doing? Are we gonna do, maybe if I turn it down to a different color setting, it might be more, the cake might be more visible. Is that better cake visibility? I look weirdly colored in this setting, but I think it is better cake visibility there. Is the cake on camera, I guess? Okay. I don't know what edge looks the best. Probably that one. It's a cute corner. I guess that's a cute corner. Okay, how am I doing my limes? So I want to just kind of like bunch them up in a corner. kind of cute style. Which corner? Probably over here. Oh, this kind of look cute. Oh, I kind of like it. Okay, it needs like a basil leaf or something on there. Ah, it's actually really cute. Okay, I don't hate this. I'm like honestly a little bit impressed with this right now. I think that's kind of cute. Okay, I do think it needs a leaf though. I'm gonna go try to find a leaf. I don't need to try to find a leaf. I have a giant basil plant. It's outside though. All right, the flourishing basil plant has entered the room. Has entered the building. Okay. Yes, it is a lime cake. It was supposed to be Brazilian limeade, and my blender, I don't have a real blender, I only have a hand like immersion blender, and it was not sufficient to make Brazilian limeade because you have to like chop up, like blend up the limes, the whole limes. So I had a bunch of limes mixed with condensed milk, and I'm like, what the hell do I do with this? Because I can't drink it. So I made it into a cake, and it actually worked. So I was pleased with that. Okay, what size leaves do I want? This looks like a beautiful leaf. Let's use that one. Ooh. Probably just like 2 leaves. I think 1's not enough, but 2 is probably the right amount. I probably don't want more than 2. Just like that. Look at the picture of how it looks. Oh, that's really cute. Okay, I'm like honestly really pleased with this cake right now. Ah! Okay, this was fun. This was fun. Oh, I made a cake. It's cute. Okay. Put it on camera. Ooh, okay. I'm gonna drop it on the floor trying to show it on the camera, and then I'm gonna be sad, but I am psyched about it. Come on, camera, focus on it. Cute. Okay, I'm pleased with the little leaves. I'm pleased with the limes on top. I'm not pleased with the camera picking up the colors, but it's cute. It's fun. I'm gonna try a different color setting because I would like it to. Got better. Is that better? That's the one I was originally on. I don't know. It doesn't want to really catch it because it's like a weird setting. Maybe if I tilt the camera down so it's not looking quite so everywhere. No, it still doesn't want to catch it, but I'm pleased with this. So I guess we're a cake baking channel now. Came here for coworking, get cake. You know, whatever. Actually, it was book club was the bill listing today. So come here for book club, get cake. You know, whatever works. I wonder if there's a better color setting. Let me go through. I would just want to. I want to have it on a decent color setting for my own visual posterity. Try one of the more pastel-y ones. I don't know. I'm trying to catch it so I can get a screenshot of it later. Come on, camera, catch the cake. Yeah. Super riveting filming, I know. Come on, pick up the cake. Focus, you fucker, come on. Come on. Why can't I get this whole cake in one shot? Darn it, that's really frustrating me. Oh well, the cake looks nice. And I think it kind of shows up on camera. Can I send a slice to England? I know, right? Hey, Capra. Is it Capra Hirkus? Welcome, welcome. Okay, let's eat the cake. I should take a photo before I slice into this thing, because I'm relatively proud of this little thing, considering I didn't even mean to make a cake. Okay, I need a better background than my computer though for this little masterpiece. What do I want to do? I probably want to put the basil plant on the table, get rid of the icing bowl. Oh, and put some limes on the table. Haha. My photography skills are coming in clutch. Okay, and the glass of water, actually, with the cute lime slice, probably goes as well. We'll get rid of the bottle of the lemons. How gauche. Okay, and let's put this on the table. In the background, we'll put the glass of water over here. Turn that to a nice part of the plant. Probably like that. All right, let's try to photo. Oh, the limes. Let's add I have a bunch of extra limes that didn't get used, so let's put those here somewhere. Now we're a photography stream. We just got it all here. I don't want the computer in the shot though. That's cute. I wonder if I just put one of these on the plate. Does that look good? No, I don't know. I don't know. I'm guessing. Can I do it without the plant? See if it's nicer when it's simpler. That's kind of cute. I'm so happy with the stupid cake. I never do anything with all my photos anyways. I never like post them anywhere. I have like a million photos to upload to my Instagram that I never do anything with, but I like taking them. And one day they may show up somewhere. Who knows? Okay, I'm probably done. I think I'm gonna eat it now. Okay, let's turn the camera setting back to like whatever I was on before. I think it was this one originally. I don't have a green plate, unfortunately. I've got blue or gray, and I already dirtied the gray one, so we're on blue now, but I think the blue kind of works nicely with the green. Okay, fix this camera too. There we go. All right, I suppose I should cut a slice of cake. Oh. I suppose you get a fork so I can eat the thing. Oh, it's so pretty. I don't want to cut into it. Okay. And I don't actually want to eat the limes on top. They're just for decoration. So, how do I want to cut this thing? I guess I want to cut like a quarter of it probably and eat it in quarters. Or what else could I do? I could cut like a slice of it. That might look better. If I cut a slice, it'll probably look better. In case I need to take more pictures tomorrow. Okay. Let's try to cut about a quarter of this cake off. Yeah, it's so dense. I suppose I should put this on a separate plate would be like the reasonable thing to do. Oh, I've got a pretty plate. And grab a fork. And then the true test. I've already eaten parts of this cake, so I know what it tastes like. But the true test with all the icing and everything will be next. Okay. Maybe I should have cut it from the front. Maybe I should have cut it from the back. Too late now. Haha. Like wedge that under there. Oh, it didn't look any better. Oh well. All right. Well, there's the cake. Okay. Let's eat it. Let's eat it, baby. Yeah, so my layers, I don't know. I should have cooled the frosting before I tried to make the center layer, because the center layer is just like a thin line because the frosting wasn't thick enough to actually like support the very, very heavy top layer. Because this cake is like dense as hell. So yeah, the thin layer is kind of just, it's in there, but it doesn't really look like a cake layer. You're right. I could like put it on there and take a picture of it cut. I think it's too messy to do that. Cause like the frosting kind of started to go everywhere when I cut it. Trying to think if I could make that work. I think I got good pictures of it. I don't think the inside looks better than the outside because of the frosting layer on the middle didn't turn out. So I think I'm gonna be satisfied with my extensive photos that I already have that I will never use for anything. They'll go up on Instagram eventually. When I get a real assistant, I'll just have an assistant who can just spend 6 months just posting all the photographs that I've ever taken and have never done anything with. Half of them are like edited and stuff too, and I just like never post. Mm. Mm-hmm. All right, that turned out really nice. Oh, okay, so if life gives you lemonade that doesn't work, make cake. Okay. Oh, this is good too because the cream cheese icing, I could kind of tell wasn't sweet enough, but I'm like, no, wait, the cake is quite sweet. Once I add it onto the cake, it'll probably be just the right balance. You don't want an oversweet icing, and I'm very pleased that I didn't sweeten the icing anymore because it doesn't need to be any sweeter. It's just nicely balanced. So I kind of had a feeling the cream cheese flavor would come out more once I combined it with the lime, and it does. So I'm pleased with that. Because cream cheese frosting is the best frosting always. Oh my God, story time. Okay. I love Cinnabon. Like Cinnabon brand cinnamon buns at a Cinnabon, fresh from warm from a Cinnabon chain, are like the best cinnamon buns, period. Like they're perfect. They perfected what they do and they're the best at it. And they have the best icing. Every other cinnamon bun chain has regular icing, not cream cheese icing, or they have a cream cheese icing, but it's extra and it's not as good as the Cinnabon icing. So Cinnabon is top tier cinnamon buns, period. Like I've had better cinnamon buns made like by hand or whatever, but not really. Cinnabon's just better. It's better. And if you think you make better cinnamon buns, then I challenge you because I think Cinnabons are better. Anyways, I do like the Pillsbury Grands. Those are really good too when they have cream cheese icing, because you can get the Cinnabon brand cream cheese cinnamon bun Pillsbury. Oh my God, I'm losing it. Cinnabon brand, Pillsbury brand, bake yourself cinnamon rolls, and they come with cream cheese icing, and they're actually pretty good too. I do like making them myself like that. But I was at the airport when I went to Greece with my friend, and this stupid airport has this system where you can, it has these little like machine kiosks with a screen on them, and they're like, order food and get it delivered to your terminal. You order through this screen and it will be here in, 10 or 20 minutes. And so the terminal we were in was like just this one small part of the airport. So we didn't see the Cinnabon, and it must have been in like a completely different building, as we will hear later in the story. So I'm like, oh my God, Greece airport has a Cinnabon and they can deliver it to my terminal, like where I'm waiting for my flight to pick up. in 20 minutes or less. And I'm like, that's insane. I'm ordering a Cinnabon right now because I need this. And my flight was about to leave. Is scheduled to leave in like, or not scheduled to take off, but like boarding was about to start, but it hadn't started yet. And boarding usually takes like 20 to 30 minutes, right? So I'm like, okay, if I order it right now, it'll arrive in time and it'll be fine. And I'll get my Cinnabon. And so I ordered a Cinnabon. And I'm like waiting and waiting and waiting. And like 10 minutes go by and I'm like, okay, well, most of the restaurants say 10 minutes, but Cinnabon's one of the ones that says 20 minutes. So it must be pretty far from here because there's no prep time in Cinnabon. They don't have to cook anything. They just put it in a box and take it to you. So I'm like, it must be really far away. They probably have to take a bus or something to get to the different terminal. Sure, whatever. Okay, so I wait. So 20 minutes passes. Now the plane is boarding and like the lineup starting to get shorter and shorter and shorter. I'm like, okay, we should stand in line, but we'll just keep moving to the back of the line when new people show up into line so I can run and grab my Cinnabon when it comes up. I'm like, okay, do we have cash? Like, it's probably faster if I just pay cash. I don't have to like worry about tapping my card or entering a PIN code or whatever. So I'm like, okay, we got cash ready to go. And like, I'm ready. I'm like, okay, the Cinnabon will arrive and I'll hand the cash and I'll take the box and we'll get on the plane. And like, the line's getting shorter and shorter and shorter. And I'm like, oh my God, oh no, I'm just going to have to give up. And it was so sad. So I'm like watching it. Like, we're literally like the last people to like exit the line to get through the gate. And I'm like looking and looking and looking. And thankfully, like, as soon as you went through the gate, you kind of lost sight. So I couldn't, like, sit there and, you know, be sad about it. But they also take your phone number so they can text you when they arrive. And I'm like, okay, it's been 30 minutes by the time I actually walked through the gate. I'm like, it's been 30 or 35 minutes. Like, this is fully, like, 10, 15 minutes after their estimated delivery time. Like, I can't be held responsible for not still being there when you said 20 minutes and it's been 35. And they don't make you pay until you actually get the food. So I didn't even pay for it, which I kind of felt bad about because I'm like, it was a Cinnabon. Like, I would have paid for it and taken the risk, but they don't make you pay till the food shows up, which is nice for the customer who, yeah, had to get on a plane because the Cinnabon didn't show up in 35 minutes. And so I'm fully like boarded this plane and like it's taking off and I get a text message 50 minutes after the order time being like, hey, are you still at the gate? We're trying to deliver your food. And I didn't even respond because they kept trying to call me and I'm like, I can't answer the call. Like, my plane is taking off. And they must have understood that they were way, way, way too late because they took 50 minutes to deliver one cinnamon bun. So it was so heartbreaking because I love Cinnabon so much. And I was so mad because I haven't found a Cinnabon in Italy. I didn't look it up. Maybe there is a Cinnabon in Rome. I should look it up, I guess. But everywhere I live never has it. So like, Vancouver Island and Victoria didn't have a Cinnabon. I think Vancouver has some. Toronto didn't have a Cinnabon, but London, Ontario did. So I lived in London for like a year and I got Cinnabon while I lived there. But then I moved to Toronto and they didn't have them anymore, which is so stupid because Toronto's obviously a bigger city than London, Ontario is. And it's like, God damn it. I guess that was the high point of my life for Cinnabon. Because I fell in love with it back when I was a kid and still living in Kelowna in BC. Because they have a Cinnabon. But yeah, that was, I think that's the end of my story. That was really sad because I love Cinnabon and I was so close to getting it and then they just never showed up. But one day I shall have Cinnabon again in the future. I guess I should look up and see if they're in Italy anywhere. Probably not. Italy's pretty good about not having a lot of chain brands here, which is nice. I appreciate that. So, you know. Okay, I'm gonna eat a little bit more of this cake and then we're gonna do a raid. Breathe. I know, right? I can't breathe. I'm so excited about my Cinnabon. My Cinnabon that wasn't meant to be. It is a sad story. It's the saddest story. My life is so hard, you guys. She says as she eats her cake. This is nice. So anyways, cream cheese icing. I will go off, apparently, talking about cream cheese icing because it's that great. This cake is so dense. It's good though, it means it won't dry out, and I'll probably take like probably 4 days to eat it. I'll probably eat one slice a day. If I thought it was going to dry out, I'd eat it faster, but I don't think it's going to dry out, so I'm probably just going to eat a slice a day. I would make this again. I don't have a real recipe for it because I just like threw it together from a roll cake recipe. All right, I think with that, it is time to raid. Let's go give it a go. Who was I going to raid? I did have someone already. Bum, bum, bum. Oh, this cake is really nice. I'm happy with this. I'm happy with this because it was such a random idea. And I could have just thrown that failed limeade out, and instead now I have a cake. All right. What does it taste like? It tastes like a really dense cake with lime flavoring, and then mixed with like a nice, not too sweet cream cheese icing on top to just kind of give it that creaminess. But yeah, it's kind of like a pound cake. Like, it's very dense and very moist and quite limey. Like, it's not like one of those cakes where you're like, yeah, there's a hint of lime. There's like, I don't know, like 3 or 4 whole ass limes shredded into this cake. Probably not quite, because I think I shredded 3 or 4 of them, or like I put 3 or 4 of them into my blender, which is not a blender, it's an immersion blender. And then I probably wasted the equivalent of like a whole lime in between, like transferring it to different containers and trying to blend it more. So there's probably like 3 whole limes in this cake. So it's very dense and very moist and very good. And it actually tastes like lime. Unlike, you know, sometimes you get a cake and you're like, yeah, this is orange flavor, this is lemon flavor. It's like, is it? Is it memory of lemon? Or is it artificial lemon? You know what I mean? This is real ass lime, no artificial flavoring at all. So it's not overpowering either. It's not like super sour or anything. It's not bitter or anything. It's just nice. Okay, let's raid. Oh, who are we gonna raid? Okay. I think we're gonna raid Salty Nell. I don't think we've raided Salty Nell before. What else do we have? We also have Okopariku. Okay, but I don't think I've ever raided Salty Nell before, so we'll do that, because I've definitely raided Okopariku before. Alright, let's give it a go. This computer is so slow right now, like it's just delayed. Every time I type something, it takes like 5 seconds before the typing actually shows up. I guess it needs a restart. Spell that correctly. Yes. It's so funny. Yesterday I'm like, it's a co-working stream, and I ended up finishing my nails. And then today I'm like, it's a book club co-working stream, and then I ended up finishing a cake. So, thanks to everyone who hung out today. I hope you enjoyed the impromptu cake decorating stream, along with the actual co-working and the actual book club stream, only 2 weeks late. Writing club will be next Monday. Gonna do some co-working tomorrow, probably some business co-working tomorrow. I think I want to slam out that Kickstarter. So if you have any questions about Kickstarter or publishing or editing, come hang out on this channel more and we will chat about it. Or also, if you have any advice on Kickstarter publishing or editing, come hang out on this channel too. And we will chat and have a great time. Otherwise, everyone have an excellent rest of your day. I hope you all enjoyed yourself today, got lots of work done, and we will see you around in the future. Bye, everyone.